Alrighty, so let's start lying down today if that works for you. If it doesn't, of course, you're very welcome to start seated. Otherwise, just making your way down onto your back in your space. However you need to be comfortable. For some people, that's stretching their legs out long. Some people prefer to have the feet flat and let the knees rest in. Either way, can you let your spine be long along the floor? Perhaps just that natural curve in the spine, but feeling anchoring a firm connection at the back of the hips, the back of the pelvis, and up through the middle and upper back, feeling the shoulder blades soften down. And as we start to arrive, you might close the eyes down straight away. You might like to start with them open or keep them open the whole time. Can we just take ourselves through this process of arriving, connecting down to the mat, the floor, the earth, everything underneath us. Oh, perhaps letting go with a sigh as you sink and settle down. And perhaps just taking a moment to notice if you've been carrying anything up until this point that you can let go, whether it's physically in the body, if you can let tension just ease as we settle and soften here. If you can let any thoughts, any feelings that are feeling a bit heavy, see if we can set them aside. You don't have to push them away or stamp them down or pretend they don't exist. But for this time together today, can we let it be easy? I'm going to keep coming back to this idea of ease. Letting go where we can of the struggle, of the things that feel really challenging and difficult, and instead focusing on the things that feel easy, even if that's not everything in our experience. And for these next few breaths, can we just let the air flow in and out in its own natural, easy pattern? You might watch your breath here and just notice each breath in and out gently in its own time. Connecting that breath to the physical body, can you notice each breath in, there's any expanding, any natural, just filling up with the air. As we breathe out, that natural emptying and softening back down. You might like to place, if you haven't already, your hands sort of on your belly or lower ribs. See if you can feel that expansion. Just a natural, gentle filling up and then a natural, gentle softening down for these next couple of breaths. After this couple of breaths, focusing the hands on the front of the body, can we bring the back of the hands and the back of the wrists just in against the side ribs? So those lowest couple of ribs or down beside your waist. It's a bit like chicken wings, letting the elbows head out wide along the floor as we tuck the back of the hands in. And let's take a few breaths here, seeing if we can expand out sideways into our hands as well as into the belly. And chances are it'll be a much smaller movement out to the side. If it's not comfortable for the wrists that way, you can wrap the thumb around the back of the ribs and the fingers around the front, sort of where our bra strap sits or a little bit lower. Just breathing some space laterally out sideways into the lungs. Let's take one more breath there. And then releasing the hands away from the body. So whether you put the palms up, just bringing the hands a little away from the side of the body. Let's take a couple of breaths here. See if we can get that same sense of movement in the body without that external kind of pressure from the hands. You still want to find this sense of ease in the breath. Sometimes we can try to do breathing, quote unquote, right, that we concentrate and add extra strain, extra tension there. Let's just take 2 more breaths. Letting that movement happen all on its own. Beautiful. Releasing any focus on the breath now. Bringing both feet flat on the floor, coming down to join us on your back if you are seated. Can we set both feet flat, roughly underneath the knees, about hip width apart? And let's take some hip tilts here. So we might bring the hands back around the sides of the hips this time. As we exhale, can we tuck the tailbone under and try and flatten the length of the spine along the floor, kind of tucking, pressing downwards. And then as we inhale, the front of the hip bones tilting forwards and away towards the knees with a bit of a lift of the spine away from the floor. So exhale, curling under, pressing flat along the floor. Inhale, tipping the hips forwards, creating space. And we want this to feel good for the spine. So if that means it's a teeny tiny subtle movement, that's great. If you feel like it feels good for you to move your spine a little more on and off the mat, you can. Just checking in with your back as well, checking in that you can still keep that breath smooth and comfortable. Let's do one more like that. One more exhale to tuck under. One more inhale, creating that space, front of the hips tilting forwards. Let's come back to a neutral spine, finding that in-between position. Hands down beside the hips, and let's inhale to lift up the hips. So we're pressing into the feet, rolling the hips, the lower back, the middle back up off the floor, pressing firm into the arms, coming up to bridge. And then exhale, lowering back down, seeing if we can curl the spine down one vertebra at a time. Let's try that a few times. Inhale to lift, driving up through the feet and the arms. Exhale to release and roll back down. You can keep your arms as they are extended along the floor. Or another option you could try is to bend at the elbows and face the palms in towards each other. So the upper arms are along the floor, but the fingertips are pointing up towards the ceiling. And then lifting and lowering the same way, but with that elbow bend, can you find a little more connection through the upper arms, really grounding down as you lift and rise? And then exhale, supporting, lowering back down gradually. Let's try a couple more. Finding space with the inhale and then that grounding connection with the exhale. One more here, one more lift and rise. And releasing, lowering down. Let's bring the hands down as well, stretching out the legs this time, setting the feet about as wide as your mat or a little bit wider than the hips. And let's just rotate the feet here. So turning both sets of toes in towards each other and then turning both sets of toes out away from each other. So a gentle back and forth. Depending on your reach, you might be able to place your hands on top of your thighs and perhaps notice how that rotation at the feet goes all the way up through the legs. You can feel the knees rotating and the thighs rotating just gently in and out, following that line of the feet. We want it to feel good, so perhaps to go easy with how far you press the feet in and out. Wonderful. Then let's relax the legs, bringing the feet back together. And we're going to create a big banana stretch for a side stretch here. So we can bring the arms up overhead along the floor. Feet are together at the bottom of the mat, so we're in one long line. And then we're going to make a moon shape by taking the hands and the feet over to the left. So we start by walking the left foot over a little bit to the left and following it with the right. And then we do the same with the hands, the left hand moving across the floor away to the left a little, and then the same, the right hand following over to the left. So you end up with this big crescent moon shape. And trying to keep both sides of the pelvis, both shoulder blades connected to the floor. So we're not rolling onto our left, we're firmly anchored on our back, but just taking the feet and the hands away to the left. And then breathing space down this right-hand side of the body. Can you feel the right lungs filling a little more, this right side of the hip getting a nice amount of stretch? Smooth and steady for a couple of breaths here. And only as big as you need to get a nice amount of sensation, bearing in mind this sense of ease here. We don't have to push ourselves into these extreme shapes to get these really lovely benefits from our practice. Let's take one more breath on this side. And then coming back to center. If you want to take a few of those leg rotations again or hug the knees in for a moment, kind of resetting the lower back and the spine, connecting down again. And when you're ready, we can extend out again, coming over to the other side this time. So the feet stepping away to the right, one foot at a time, meeting together over to the right side of your mat. Same with the right hands. Right hand moving away, left hand to meet it. You can pick up your head a little and move it to the right too, if that works. Gaze up at the ceiling to really keep us anchored here on our back, not rolling over to the side. And then as we breathe here, what space can we find through the left side of the body? We feel a filling and expanding with our breath in. And that natural softening with our breath out. Taking 2 more breaths here. And then let's gently unwind, coming back to center. Coming down, and let's draw the knees in towards the chest. Maybe a squeeze of the knees. You could go in and out a few times or hold them in and rock side to side, whatever feels like the right type of movement for you here. And then we're going to see if we can all start rocking side to side and see how much we can control this rocking movement. So as we go to the side, chances are there'll be a point where we kind of tip ourselves over onto one side. Can we kind of use our top leg and the elbow to just support us back up onto our back, and then try and go the other way. See how much of that roll we can control, knowing it's fine if we kind of roll ourselves all the way over onto the side. We can just prop ourselves back up again. And then we're going to come over to one side. I'll let you choose which side. We're going to do some side lying movements. So come to the side that makes the most sense. You might need to reshuffle back. If you're using a mat, you've probably rolled off it. Let's set ourselves up with some support under the head. You could grab a pillow or you can tuck your bottom arm underneath. Bending both legs, stacking them on top. So we've got feet, hips and shoulders in one long line along the floor. This top hand can be a little bit of a support down in front of the belly. And then let's connect the feet together, but lift and lower this top knee. So coming into some clam lifts here. Beautiful. We want to make sure with these lifts and lowers that we are staying firmly on our side. So it can be really nice to bring that top hand to the top hip to just check it's not rolling open. We want to stay on our side, check this hip stay still as we bring the leg up and down. That's going to bring that sensation a little more into the glutes here. Beautiful. Coming back to this idea of letting it be easy, and in movements like this that for a lot of us can be really intense. We can find ease in a lot of different ways. So we can make the actual movement smaller. We can find a little more physical ease, giving ourselves that grace and that space to find those smaller sensations. We can find ease by tuning into our breath, making sure the breath can flow steadily in and out of the body. We can perhaps find ease in our mindset by letting go of expectations or criticisms or those stories that pop up that like to talk to us about who we are or what we're doing. Let's take one more. Lowering that top leg down. You can take that top fist if you like and give it a pummel around anywhere that feels tight, or a bit of a rub with some circles, easing out some of that tension. Beautiful. And then let's take some circles with this top arm. So we're going to bring the arm up in front of the body, so up past the belly, the chest, the face. And then reaching over away behind, making a big round circle, either with the hand if it feels comfortable to keep the arm long, or you could bend the elbow a little and draw those circles leading with the elbow. And it's up to you. You can keep the chest facing quite square towards the side of your space and just work through that shoulder. Or you could start to work through the upper back by letting the chest open to the ceiling. As that arm comes away behind, we're going to rotate ourselves open and come back. Just an optional extra if it feels good. We will work with that rotation in a minute. And if it feels really good, it can be nice to play with it here. Let's take 2 more circles, smooth and steady with your breath. And then let's come back and we'll come into those rotating twists, which if you've been doing yoga with me for a while, you've probably figured out is one of my new favorite things. We're going to prop the fingertips just behind the ear, extend that top leg long. You can hover the leg or bring the toes down. And we're going to rotate this twist. So exhale, let's bring the chest and the elbow forwards towards the floor as this top leg sweeps away behind. And then coming the other way, inhale to open up, chest and gaze to the ceiling, foot coming forwards. Let's ease back and forth, finding A really nice rhythm that works for your body, works for your breath. Again, if you need to step that foot down for any or all of this movement, you can. Again, how can you find ease here? Can we link the body and the breath together in a really lovely, supportive way? It's not to say it's not challenging in any way, but can we find ease with the movement? Let's take one more in each direction. Beautiful. Let's come back to our side, bringing that top leg back on top. We're going to come up and over. So let's press ourselves up from here, coming up to sit. As we come up, if you've still got the legs stacked, let's slide that top leg off and bring this top leg around underneath. So we actually end up in a bit of a deer pose here. Now it's going to be a lot for the knees. If you need to squiggle it around, you can. If you need to add extra pillows under, you can. We can prop our hands on either side of this front leg. And let's just take a few flows over. So exhale, we can bring the belly and chest down over the knee to any amount. And then inhale to float it back up. Taking a few rounds with your breath. With this one, I quite like to take the hands really wide and come up on the fingertips. But you could have the hands flat. You could have the hands narrow, whatever you feel like you need to really support the movement here. Let's just take a couple more, bringing perhaps a little stretch into that hip underneath us. Beautiful work. And then we're going to come through the other side, but in reverse order. So we're going to swap our legs around here. So let's sweep the legs around the other side. One leg is across in front of you and the other heel tucks around beside. Because we would have been lying on different sides, I won't cue right and left. So you'll either be the same as me or the opposite. Either way, it doesn't matter. Let's bring our hands over the other knee this time and take a few of those folds, that gentle folding, release down, that gentle supporting back up. You might notice a difference here. I mean, sides are different, generally speaking, but on the other side, we've done a few different movements through the hips, whereas this side, we haven't done any of those other movements. So it may feel a little different. It may feel a little more stiff. You may feel the stretch a little more intensely. Let's take two more, as much or as little movement through this as you like. You can do a teeny tiny lower, a teeny tiny press up if that feels better for you. And then let's make our way down onto the other side. So next time we come up, let's slip this front leg back underneath it. So both legs are stacked. And hopefully you're on the opposite side to where you were last time with all those side movements. And then let's release ourselves down. So gradually coming down to the other side, propping something under the head or having that arm for support. Can you check in that you've got feet, hips, and shoulders in one long line? Beautiful. Alrighty. And we'll still start with those clam lifts on this side. So feet connecting together. Let's lift and lower that top knee any amount. If you want to link breath and movement here, chances are you'll need to move pretty slowly. Or you could just focus on having a steady, gentle breath and lifting and lowering at a different pace. But above all, can we find a sense of ease here? Can we let go of some of the struggle, whether that's physical struggle, whether that's with the breath, whether that's mentally, emotionally? Taking a few more rounds with your breath, checking that top hip is staying stacked. Sometimes part of the struggle is our brain telling us we want to go as big as possible, and we can go bigger, and we end up overcompensating by rolling open with the hips. Let's take one more here. Beautiful work. Resting that leg down, taking that fist, having a pummel, a rub, whatever you need around that hip. And then when you're ready, let's find those circles with the top arm. So sweeping from the hips up in front of the belly, the chest, up in front of the body, and then away behind, rotating, finding a really nice rhythm. Love taking the arms in this direction. It's a really lovely counter movement to all of the sitting and forward reaching that we do on our phones, computers, cars, desks. Circling the arms in this opposite direction kind of wakes up the shoulder blades. Helps us get a stretch or release through the chest and the front of the shoulder. Beautiful. Let's take one more time through. And coming back, let's prop the hand just behind the ear, releasing that top leg long, finding our rotations here. Exhale, chest and elbow forwards and down as the foot sweeps back behind. Inhale, rotating the other way, chest and elbow way above and behind as the leg sweeps forwards. Finding a smooth, steady breath. How does it feel to find that ringing out sensation, that twisting, rotating through the upper, middle, and lower body? Let's take one more in each direction. Beautiful. Coming back to our side, resting that top leg on top. Oh, bring that top arm down, just pausing for a moment. And then let's gently support ourselves, coming up to hands and knees. Remembering, as always, anytime we come onto hands and knees, if you're looking for a little more support, you could bring a blanket across the middle of your mat. If you were using a mat, you can fold it and bring the knees onto just an extra couple of layers to support. You could have toes tucked or tops of the feet flat. Let's prop the hands underneath the shoulders, spread wide, and find a few cat and cows here. So drawing the spine up towards the ceiling as we breathe in. Exhale, finding space in the front of the body as we lower the belly and the chest, lengthening through the front of the body. Cycling through with your breath, inhale to press up and exhale to draw the front of the body long. And again, making them as big or as small as you need here, depending on what's been happening for you today and this week, will really dictate how this feels in your body. If you're liking this straight cat and cow, let's stay with it. If you feel like you want a bit of different movement, you can take your hips, your shoulders in a more circular direction. You could rock forwards and backwards a little. Find what you need here. Don't be afraid to add a little extra movement, particularly when it's feeling really good or it feels like a stretch that you need. If there's one point through this movement that feels really good, you could pause there for a couple of breaths, breathe a bit of extra space into it. 2 more breaths wherever is working best for you. Beautiful. And then let's come to our first downward dog. So coming back to center, let's tuck the toes and take the hips high, pressing strong through the arms, chest and belly moving back towards the thighs. You might pedal out the feet here, bending one knee and softening the opposite heel to the floor. Doesn't have to go all the way. It's just softening in that direction. Can we feel a bit of length down the back? Knowing that you can release back to hands and knees, or you can come to child's pose, letting the hips settle back further anytime you need. And downward dog is often spoken about as a resting pose, which I think is a bit laughable, really. There's a lot of work going on here. But as we let the legs find stillness in our downward dog, softening both knees, pressing the spine long, can we find some element of ease here? Whether it's softening the muscles around the jaw, whether it's just noticing the flow of breath. Maybe it's noticing how the downward dog of today does feel a little easier than the downward dog of when you first started practicing. Let me take 2 more smooth, steady breaths wherever you are. And let's start that slow, steady transition to stand. Hands walking slowly back towards the feet, noticing that point where the feet come flat, softness in the knees. Belly and chest coming in to connect with the upper legs here. You can bend the knees as much as you need. And maybe find a bit of sideward sway here. You could sweep the fingertips across the floor if they reach comfortably, or have one hand on each leg. Just a little bit of movement, as long as it feels okay for your balance. Sometimes when we're in an inversion where our head is lower than our heart, things can feel a little uncomfortable. And if that's you, just come back to center gently. Find stillness, find focus with the gaze. And then let's come upright together, softening the knees, tucking the tailbone. A slow, steady uncurl up through the spine. You could let the arms hang, or you could walk them up the body if you feel like you would like a little more support for the spine. As we arrive, how can we roll the shoulders, create a little space across the chest? Just create that ease in our mountain pose and softening into stillness here, feet hip width apart. Palms might face towards your body or out in front. And I invite you to come back to that breath. So as we breathe in and out here, just for a few moments, we feel that sense of expansion and filling through the belly. Not so much as something that we need to make happen, but as something that we're just noticing, something that's already happening, whether we're or not we're aware of it. And then can we notice that side ribs? If you're having trouble getting a sense of that sideways expansion with the breath, you could definitely bring the hands back, either like those chicken wings, the backs of the hands in against the ribs, or the thumbs wrapping around behind to hold around the sides of the ribs. Just one more breath. Well, let's release the arms if you had them lifted and sweep them up overhead, palms facing towards each other. Let's just take a really simple side stretch by just trying to lift one hand higher than the other. So you feel one side of the body kind of stretch and release, coming back to center, and then the other side of the body, reaching the hand a little higher. And it doesn't have to be a big movement. Notice how sometimes these really subtle movements can create some sensation, some stretch in the body, just back and forth a few times gently with your breath. If you're not feeling much of a side stretch and you want a little more, the hand that's reaching up, let's take the opposite hand around that wrist and we could lift it up and over a little, only if you feel like you want a bit more of a stretch. If you're already getting great sensation here, let's stay here. And last time, let's change sides, releasing, extending the other arm up, and again, that option to add that hold around the wrist and that gentle pull, only if it feels like you need it. Let's take one more smooth, steady breath. And then releasing down. That's a lot for the shoulders. If you need a wiggle, a shake, a roll, take a moment here and we'll come set up for our salute to the sun. We're just going to head one time through our salute to the sun with our lunges, taking it slow and steady as we go. Let's find our place at the front of our mat, some room behind us, feet about hip width apart, soft in the knees. Inhale, reaching out and up overhead, palms facing forwards. Can we lift the gaze and the chest ever so slightly, like with those slight side lifts? We're doing a slight front lift this time. Can you feel the front of the body lift and engage with one more in-breath? Exhale, coming upright, and let's fold, knees bending, belly to thighs, hands to the floor, the legs. Maybe your gaze stays down in front of your feet, or maybe you relax the top of the head down, smooth and steady with your breath. Then looking at the feet, let's step the right foot straight back from where it is, bringing the knee down. Again, we can add extra padding under the knees if we need. You might stay down low, hands on either side of that front leg, or you might come upright. Either way, can we engage down strongly through both feet? And if you are upright, we've got the option of taking some arm flows here. So really simple with the breath. We inhale, reaching out and up, palms to touch overhead. Exhale, coming back down through center. Taking a few like that. Inhale to reach and lift and rise. Exhale down through the center. Finding your smooth and steady rhythm with your breath. Let's take one more breath, whether you're upright with the arms or not, or down with the hands on either side of that knee. Let's meet with our hands back down on the floor and we'll find our plank here. So you can take that front foot around the outside, or you could lift the back knee and shoot it back through the middle, bringing the knees down when we arrive. So we're in a knee plank, hands under shoulders, pressing strongly away from the floor. Let's just breathe a bit of space here into that space in between the shoulder blades. Can we lift and rise away from the floor? And you might notice the struggle in our planks. Planks are pretty hard work. So you might be feeling it through the hands, through the shoulders, down through the front of the body. Even in plank though, where we're feeling a little more challenged, can we find a sense of ease? Can you feel perhaps a slight more expansion with the breath? Again, can you relax the muscles down through the face? Beautiful. Let's tuck our toes from here and just take a few rounds with our breath. So let's exhale to pull the hips back towards the heels, reaching the arms long. And then inhale, work our way back to plank, pushing the floor away. So keeping the shoulders stable and lifted the whole way through. Exhale, pulls us back gently, and inhale brings us forwards. If you're wanting to make it a little less intense, just walk the hands a little bit further towards the knees. So it's more like working between child's pose and all fours. Let's take a couple more rounds. Beautiful. And then we're going to come all the way down to the floor. Now, you might do that from your plank. You could lower straight down through a push-up position. You could walk the hands out and step the elbows down and bring the front of the hips down, however makes the most sense for you. And let's find Sphinx pose here. So we've got the elbows set underneath the shoulders, the forearms facing forwards, pressing firm through the tops of the feet, through the forearms, lifting and reaching the heart towards the front of your space. And then can we find ease, relaxing the shoulders down away from the ears? We can always decrease the intensity by walking the elbows a little further away. Even taking them out to the side a little can help, as long as it feels good for the shoulders. Let's take one more full inhale here. Exhale, releasing down. Let's bring the forehead onto some stacked hands, bending both knees, taking feet up towards the ceiling, and just a gentle sway of the feet side to side. A bit of a rotation. Again, for the legs, like we did when we were lying on our back, turning the toes in and out, but also a bit of a rock for the hips for the lower back here. Coming back to center, let's support ourselves up to downward dog. You can go through plank, you can come through hands and knees. Just find your best way to get there, tucking the toes, taking the hips high, pressing the chest back towards the thighs and settling in with the breath here, smooth and steady. Again, finding that ease once we return to these poses that require a little more of us. Can we still find ease with our breath? And then we're going to take a big step with that right foot up towards the hands. So you can do it from your downward dog, taking a big sweeping step. You can bring both knees down and step it through, or just come as far as you can, then set the left knee down, squiggling our way forwards. Until that right foot's underneath the knees, you could keep the hands on the floor or come up onto the thigh again. Either way, can we anchor down firmly through both feet? And then again, if you'd like that arm flow, inhale, reaching, rising, creating space. Exhale, centering, grounding, coming back down. Finding that rhythm with your breath rather than following someone else's rhythm. Can you listen to that pace of your own breath and follow that? It's a really lovely, simple way to create ease, is linking movement and breath together. Let's take one more if you're working with that flow. Bringing the hands down either side of the front foot. Let's tuck the back toes and lift the back knee. Taking one big step or a few little steps forwards, coming back to our forward fold. Feet a comfortable distance apart, soft in the knees. You could sway here. You could hold opposite elbows. You could hold behind the legs. Lots of different options to just find a place to settle for a breath or two. And then let's slowly curl up, hands on legs or hands hanging long. Gradually coming back upright. Beautiful work. Taking a wiggle, a roll here. Beautiful. Grab yourself a drink if you need, or take a moment if you want to shake anything out. Alrighty. So we're going to come through a bit of a standing series here. To start, we're going to work with some shoulder movements, some controlled rotations, which a few of you will have done before. A choice for this one, you can stay upright in mountain pose, staying up tall with a bit of softness in the knees, tiny bit of length in the tailbone, just really nice and upright. Or you can find chair pose. We can sit the hips back, creating a little more intensity. We want the belly and the lower back to be really nice and neutral, so we're not cat or cowing our spine. We're really long in the spine, these lowest ribs tucked in. This is going to add a little more intensity, so it's up to you. You can come into your chair pose a little bit or a lot, or you can stay completely upright. The arms are going to be the same regardless. So we're going to bring our left palm up, our elbow at right angles if we're carrying a tray in front of us, and then coming through a rotation. So we're going to bring that arm across in front of the belly, follow the body around the side and behind, extending that hand out wide, upside down, and we're going to bring the hand around the back of the head and then back to that starting position. And we'll do that a few times. So we come across the belly, tracing the fingers around the side and back of the body, extending the arm out wide. There's a bit of a twist in the arm as we're coming around the back of the head and back to where we began. Let's do 2 more on this side. If you're comfortable with the rhythm, you can find your own pace. If you're working with me, just following along as best you can. And part of finding ease with this movement may be releasing the need to do it perfectly, to follow perfectly, knowing that all of this movement is good for us as long as it's feeling good in the body. Perhaps the ease comes with remembering to breathe as we're concentrating hard. Just finishing off that last round your own time, and let's swap it over. If you've been in that chair pose and you want to rise up and have a little wiggle of the legs, you can. If it feels right for you to step back down, you can. Let's take the other hand this time, right hand palm facing up, coming across the body to begin, around the side and the back. And if this is feeling really comfortable, you could imagine yourself trying to hold a big plate flat on that palm the whole way through. Again, as long as we can still keep a sense of ease there. It's a really good one for our proprioception, our balance, our understanding of where our body is in space. And like all things, if this is new for you, chances are it'll feel a little confusing, a little challenging. If that's bringing up feelings of frustration or judgments, just notice those thoughts and see if we can create some ease there. Can we release the need to do it perfectly, the need to understand first time through? Understanding our brain really thrives on repetition. So those of you that have been practicing with me for a while, chances are you're feeling a bit more comfortable with this now, even if you only do it every couple of months when I schedule it into a class. Let's do 1 more circuit through on this right-hand side. Beautiful work. Circling back around. Let's bring that hand down. If you want to release the shoulders, do a bit of a squeeze and a hug forwards of the shoulder blades, you could. And then from the front of our space, let's anchor firmly into the right leg and stepping the left leg back, finding a high lunge. So for our lunge, we want this front knee over the ankle, a bit of a bend in the back knee. Really similar principles to that low lunge that we did through our salute to the sun. Pressing down firmly here. Can we take a breath or two just to anchor strongly? And then let's find that flow again with the arms. This time we can add the legs in if we like. We can inhale to reach out and up and straighten the legs. Palms to touch, exhale, coming back down through center. So inhale, we can lift and rise, and exhale, really connecting downwards, taking a few more times through, smooth and steady. Let's go 1 more time. And then coming back down, and let's turn it into warrior 2. So this left foot is going to spin and plant flat. We turn our chest and our belly out to the left. Just check that this right knee is still over the ankle here. And let's take our arms out wide, finding warrior 2. Can we ground down firmly through both feet? Really feel that reach, that space. Maybe taking the gaze over the right fingertips with our smooth, steady breath. Beautiful. How can we find a sense of ease here? The warrior poses require a lot of strength, a lot of engagement, particularly through the lower body. You can always bring that back leg in to reduce the intensity. We find ease with the breath and the gaze, maybe with some softness in the face. 1 more full breath here. And then let's bend this right elbow. Bring the hand or the forearm down onto the thigh, depending on what reach is best for you. And let's bring these left fingertips behind the ear. Let's come back to that side twisting movement. So exhale, let's rotate the elbow forwards and down towards the right hand, and then inhale, open up towards the ceiling. Any amount, it doesn't have to be all the way open. We want it comfortable. We want to find ease here. So you take it as big or as small as you need. You might notice there's a bit of rotation, a bit of twist through the spine. If it feels like you're a bit cramped, try coming up onto the hand on the thigh with that right hand to give us a bit more space to rotate. Let's get one more through. Beautiful work. Let's release that top hand around to the hip. We're going to take a little bit of a teapot tip here. So you could keep that right hand on your thigh or you could reach it long. I'm going to hop this left leg in. And just before we come up to stand, it's like a mini half moon, just a tiny tip. Can we lift that left foot off the floor? Maybe you find stability there. Maybe it's just a gentle lift and lower. And then we're going to step back around to face the front where we started. Rolling, it might feel nice to set the feet wide and take a bit of a standing twist here. Beautiful. Then we're going to come through that sequence on the other side. So finding your way to the front of your space again. Let's anchor into the left leg this time with a bit of softness in the knees and step the right foot back. As much or as little as you need to feel a nice amount of stretch in the front of this back hip, but then anchor strongly into your lunge. Make sure you can access strength here. If you've gone long, but you find you can't engage the feet down, step it closer. Check that this left knee over the ankle can really press down, a softness in the right knee. And let's take those lifts and lowers, either just the arms or the arms and the legs. Inhale to lift and rise. Exhale to calm back down. Smooth and steady with the breath. Finding that gentle flow. Let's go 2 more times through. Calming back down. And then let's turn it into warrior 2. Back hip twisting open, foot coming flat. Maybe the foot faces straight out or in 45 degrees. Can you check in with that left knee that it's still over the ankle? It's going to want to kick over to the right, but we want it really nice and firm. And then we can expand our wings out wide. Reaching long. Taking the gaze over the left fingertips as you're ready. Smooth and steady. Let's stay for 2 breaths. See if we can find that strength through the legs and then access that sense of ease here. And then when you're ready, let's bend the left elbow, bringing the hand or the forearm onto the thigh. Left fingertips behind the left ear. Sorry, right fingertips behind the right ear. That's the top arm. And then that rotation. Exhale, twisting forwards and down, and inhale to open up. And particularly as we start changing our center of gravity with this rotation movement, you might find things get a little shaky, a little harder to stabilize through the legs. All of that is okay. It's all part of the process. Working with body movement. Lots of little challenges to be found along the way, but how can we keep creating a sense of ease here? Let's do 2 more times through, as big or as small as you need here. Exhale, closing, anchoring down. Inhale, opening up, creating space. And the next time you open up, let's pause there. Releasing this top hand around to the hip, and then finding that little teapot balance, whether you keep your hand on the thigh, hop the back leg in, you could reach that left arm long. Either way, can you find a little float, a little balance here, a little mini half moon? And then bringing ourselves around back to the front, settling in. You could pedal the legs out. You could set them wide and spin a couple of times. Just finding a little ease here. Beautiful. We're going to work our way down to the floor. If it works for you to come through that rolling down position, you can do that. Otherwise, just find a way down to the floor that feels comfortable and right for you. If you are going to roll down, let's find some space in front of us, a bit of softness in the knees. Tucking the chin and slowly curling down. So upper back, middle back, lower back. You could let the arms hang. You could walk them down the legs. Gradually coming down and then walking the hands out once you arrive, bringing the knees down. And then let's come around onto our bottoms, setting our feet in front. And we're going to come to a pose that when you think of ease and comfort, lots of people think of, which is boat pose. No, just kidding. It's not very easy. All right, so we're going to come onto our sitting bones with our feet flat in front. Now, this is one of a pose that a lot of people consider really challenging, and it is. And we're going to work on finding ease here. And so I'm going to talk you through it. If you're comfortable with boat pose, you might work through these options a little quicker, but I still encourage you to step through it and work out where you're at today. So we can bring the hands behind the knees and we start to tilt our spine back, but we want to stay long in the spine. So we're really trying to avoid any hunching or squeezing of the shoulders up. So relaxing the shoulders down, spine long, some space across the chest. And then we can start to walk the feet back towards the bottom, feeling the heels lift. Maybe the toes lift as well. So you can stay here with the toes grounded, or you can lift them. You can stay with the feet towards the floor, or you can start to lift them anywhere that you like. You can come up parallel with the floor. You could come all the way straight. That gets super challenging. Any of those places where it feels right for you. And at any of those places, you can keep the hands tucked, or you can extend the arms long beside the legs. So it's going to be a lot more challenging to release that support of the legs. Now, wherever you've naturally ended up, I want you to take it one option backwards. So one option less intense from where you were, whether that's bringing the toes down, whether that's lowering the legs, whether that's bringing the arms back under the knees. And just see what you notice with a little more support than what you thought you needed. So long spine, proud across the chest. Can we find ease through the breath? Can we let that soften the muscles through the face? Wherever you're at in your boat pose, what do you notice when you've taken a little bit more support here? Can you use that ease to notice maybe some of the more subtle sensations, maybe the muscles in the front of the hips? Let's take one more breath wherever is right for you. And then releasing back. Let's all bring our feet flat to the floor. We can set the hands behind and really sway the knees side to side if you like. It'll be a nice way to ease out some of that tightness in the hip flexors in the front of the hips. Beautiful. All righty, now let's find some genuinely easeful positions for the body. We're going to roll over and come onto one side, lowering ourselves down again. Setting ourselves up with some support under the head. And setting the feet, hips, shoulders, that nice alignment down through the body, the knees bent forwards for a bit of support. Let's just take one or two rotations with that arm like we did earlier. So hand at the hip and then coming up in front of the body, reaching away behind. Let's just do one more rotation like that. And then we're going to try and use that openness in the shoulder to find a quad stretch. So we're going to see if we can lift this top heel towards the bottom and take hold of the toes, the foot, the ankle, the shin, kind of wherever you can grab. If it's not grabbable for you, you could either grab a belt or a strap and wrap it around the front of your foot to hold on, give you a bit more length in your arm. Or you could touch the toes down behind you and really press them into the floor to find that same openness in the front. And so can we release that knee down towards the end of our mat? Can we breathe some space into the front of the leg? Beautiful. Our chair pose, our warrior pose, that boat pose, all kind of require a lot of engagement and strength and flexion in the front of the hips. So just giving it a chance to extend out a little here, using our breath to create a little more ease. Beautiful. Let's release that leg when you're ready, stacking it back on top. And we're going to find some rotations here. Now, you could leave that bottom arm underneath. If you do happen to have a pillow or something within reach, I encourage you to grab it because it can feel a bit nicer to release the bottom arm for this next twist. So we're going to extend the bottom arm straight out in front on the floor ahead of you. And then place that top hand on top. So we've got palms together, almost in a prayer position with the fingers pointing straight out from your chest, arms long. And then with our inhale, let's slide that top hand up the bottom arm, across the chest and away behind on whatever angle feels right. Exhale, lifting it all the way up and over back to center. So taking a few rounds through like that. Inhale to slide across the body, reaching away behind. Exhale to lift up and over, coming back. Taking a few more with your own breath. You can let the head roll onto the back as you open up, encouraging that sense of twist through the upper middle back. Beautiful work. Let's take one more big breath, opening with the twist. And returning back to the front, letting everything soften and settle, just pausing here on our side. And then let's make our way gently to the other side. You might just roll over in your space, or you might come up and over to the other end. Setting yourself up with either the pillow or the arm to start with underneath the head. Can we take, once we arrive, that rotation or two just to open up this top shoulder? Inhale, sweeping the hand up in front of the body. Exhale, coming away behind. Smooth and steady with your breath. And then on that second time through, can we pick up that top heel and take hold? With or without a strap for support, or bringing those top toes behind us onto the floor and kind of pushing into the floor to get this space through the front of the leg. As we use our breath here, can we create a little more ease wherever you feel that stretch? Beautiful work. Let's release that leg, letting it come down, setting ourselves up for those twists with that support of the head, the bottom arm long, top hand on top. When we're ready, let's find that rotation. Inhale, sliding the top hand up the arm across the chest, away behind. And exhale to come back over, touching down. Moving with your breath. Again, how can you use the breath to create space and ease and lightness? Is it in the body? Is it in the breath? Is it in where you rest your attention and your thoughts? Let's take 2 more rounds through. Beautiful work. Let's release, taking that support out from under you, and we'll come around onto our backs. Anchoring back where we started, the spine long and supported along the floor. And then let's take a reclining pigeon pose. We'll bring the right foot up and over the left knee, taking the right knee out to the side. You could keep that left foot on the floor, or you could start to hug the left knee in towards the chest. Can we let our spine be long and supported here, feeling the left foot draw towards the body? So the right foot draw towards the body as the right knee eases away. And if you've taken hold, you might even choose to extend that lifted leg up towards the ceiling. That left leg might go long if that feels okay for you. Any of those places are great places to be. You might have the leg extended, you might have the leg bent and lifted, or you might have the left foot on the floor. Beautiful. Let's all release back down. So if you've got that leg lifted, we're going to bend it and then bring the foot down, but we're going to keep that same cross. Let's take our hands out wide, so out wide into a T position, and just take a rocking motion through the hips here with this right foot still crossed over the left. Side to side gently, keeping the legs as they are. And you might keep that rocking, or you might want to tip all the way over to the left, feeling that right foot stamp down and the left leg go along the floor. You could stay upright, you could stay rocking, or you could tip yourself over to the left for a hold there for about 2 or 3 more breaths, whichever version is working for you. And then let's gently release ourselves back to center, taking that to the other side. So right foot coming flat, left foot crossing over the right knee, knee out, left knee out to the side. Do you keep that right foot on the floor? Do you hug it in towards your chest? Do you keep that right leg bent, or do you start to open up sole of the foot towards the ceiling? Either way, that left knee is gently easing away from the body, creating a nice outer hip stretch. We do want it to feel nice. If it's feeling a little too intense, come back to one of those previous options. Let's take one more full breath where you are. And then all releasing down. So bending that right leg, bringing the right foot to the floor, arms wide. And again, that bit of rocking side to side, combination of the hip stretch with a little bit of a twist, with a little bit of a bonus massage across the lower back. Again, you can stay as you are, or you can rock and tip over to the right, bringing the sole of the left foot down with you. May or may not feel right for you. Find that option that feels best. Let's stick with that for 3 more breaths. And then let's gently unravel ourselves, coming to center, unwinding the legs. Take any last little movements or adjustments that feel right for you. Maybe a hug of the knees, maybe a bit of rotation. And then we can get ourselves set up for a comfortable relaxation, whether you want to bring the feet flat and let the knees rest in, whether you want to stretch the legs out long, you can let the hands soften and relax beside us, taking your time to get set up in the best place for you to be. You are welcome to stay for as long as you have today. So if it's worth taking that little bit of extra time to get set up, please do. As we come to soften and settle, I invite you to take a big clearing breath, filling up with a big deep inhale, letting it go with a big sigh out. When you're ready, letting your breath find its own gentle rhythm again. And for our time in stillness today, I invite you to keep the simpleness, the ease of the breath as your focus. It's completely normal and natural that other things will come along that take your attention, take your thoughts away. Anytime we notice that happening, just acknowledging it and shifting our focus back to each breath. And as we draw each inhale in, just using the simple mental label in. As the breath goes out, can we use the simple mental label out? Just noticing and naming this in and out with each breath. Perhaps noticing that the breath continues on even when we become distracted, even when other things take our attention. The breath has continued on in and out. So this process of shifting our focus isn't to make us breathe, but just to notice what's already happening. I'd like to sit with that focus for your time in stillness today, however long you have, whether it's another few seconds or minutes or longer. I'll gently leave you to finish off your practice in your own time. Thank you deeply for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again soon. From my heart to yours, thank you.